Hello and welcome back to a very ill version of the Chef One podcast with me, the ill person in question, Rudy Brown, Amy Hammerslag and Seb Alston, who both sound a lot better. Today we've got a bit of a different video for you. We are going to be ranking each of the new liveries that have come out ahead of the 2024 season. Not the most riveting stuff, but we'll try and put our own fun spin on it. So in a completely random order, we are going to begin with Mercedes. Now, we'll rank each livery out of 10. The only one that hasn't technically come out yet is the Red Bull car, but we've seen footage of that on track, and my God, does it look scary, but also exactly the same. So there's no point ranking the Red Bull car. But yeah, we'll kick off with Mercedes. Amy, how do you think that Mercedes car looks?
I'm intrigued by, obviously, the silver arrow in the front of the car, and not all black. I actually prefer the all black look. Okay. So for me, I'd have to go, I'd say a 7 out of 10. I think, is that how we're rating it?
Yeah. 10 being spotless, 10 being beautiful, 10 being, I don't know, think of a nice car off the top of my head, 10 being like, I don't know, an Alfa Romeo that was from like 2019 because they were really pretty from memory, and and then the rest being, you know, worse.
Well, 7 out of 10 is my reason, because I'm intrigued by the silver, because they are the silver arrows, but I am much more in favour of all black. I think on night races in Singapore, I don't know why, they just look really cool. But to go back to silver, I'm not a fan, but still has that black on it, so I'd go for a 7 out of 10.
I mean, it does go to show that last season they did go all black without the reasons of performance, because obviously if you go black, it makes your car quicker because there's less paint on there if you go carbon fibre. So having the silver on the nose is reassuring that Mercedes do have that extra bit of leeway for a nicer paint job. I disagree. I like the silver and black integration. I think it's a nice touch, unique. They haven't really done it before, and they've kept the red on the air intake, which I think looks pretty sick. So Seb, what do you rate it out of 10? Then we'll see if ours sort of average out.
I'm going to rank it 9 out of 10. It is my favourite livery.
Wow.
I really like the little combo, like a little bit of nostalgia with the silver. Well, I'm not that old. They also had it like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But you know, thinking of like the 2014 to 16 sort of era, I think it looks really nice. The way it like flows into it looks really good. And I do sort of prefer the black. I think the black aesthetically, all black aesthetically for Mercedes looks better. And like a couple of years ago, it did look really, really good. I think it was 2020 it first had it, and it looked incredible. But that was because every other car was like actually painted.
Yeah.
This year, when everything's a little bit like so much carbon, for them to actually go a little bit more silver, I think. In other years, it might not be as high ranking because I do prefer the black, but yeah, I think compared to all the other cars, I just really love it.
I'm with you, Seb, but yeah, it's a very nice looking car. I love how they've sort of made sure to stick with the electric blue lines down the sort of length of the nose and onto the halo and stuff like that. I think it looks really cool, and it kind of gives me sort of shades of the McLaren Mercedes from back in the day, the silver going into the black. So obviously wrong team, but you know, same engine manufacturer and whatnot. And it looks really cool. I'm going to give it an 8.5. So I think collectively, should we just call it an 8?
Yeah, there we go.
Sounds pretty good. All right, moving on to one of the most talked about liveries on the grid, because no one really knows what this team is. Visa, Cash App, RB, Racing Bulls, Red Bull 2, whatever you want to call it. They've definitely thrown it back a little bit with its very Toro Rosso-esque livery. Amy, what do you think of it? Because it's, I think, mixed opinions online.
Yeah, I like how reminiscent it is. I do like that old factor. However, it just looks a bit blag to me.
Yeah.
I think it just looks a bit fake. Like, I'm looking at it here, and it looks a bit like a Lego. Like, I'm not a fan.
Lego?
It doesn't look real. It looks like, you know, like one of the models that you can get, like a play toy.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like, and it doesn't look like a Formula One car. And it, for me, really resembles their aspirations for this year. So I'm gonna go 4 out of 10.
Whoa. Interesting you said
Love
that.
the blue though.
The blue, it's a very nice shade of blue. Again, reminiscent of the old Toro Rosso liveries that they used to run up until 2020, right, Seb? You're the expert.
When they went to AlphaTauri.
When they went to AlphaTauri, yeah. But I think one thing that needs to be spoken about with this car is the offensive amount of sponsors just plastered all over it, and it's hard to really appreciate the paint job when there is just sponsors everywhere. There's too much going on, plain and simple. So I'm gonna give it a 6. Because the colour's very pretty, basically. If I had to sort of play devil's advocate a bit, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Seb, how do you feel about RB?
It's confused because like the Toro Rossos between 2017 and 2019 are like my favourite.
Gorgeous
F1
cars,
ever.
gorgeous
They're
cars.
so beautiful, like, and it's the white on this ruins it for me.
Yeah.
If they hadn't, it didn't have the white, and it was a red stripe along the middle bit near the side pod, and then got rid of that bit where it says Hugo, and that was just all blue.
Which bit that says Hugo? It's everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. But it's also the Orlan sponsor. I thought it looked awful on the AlphaTauri last year. I think it ruined it last year, that bit of red. Like the little bit of red for Honda, that's fine on the AlphaTauri, but again this year, they have to do it because of the sponsors, like what they paid and things like that, and it just looks... I hate it, but I really love that they've gone down this route to go back down. It gives me hope for future RB, whatever V-carb things. If they get rid of the white, get rid of that sponsorship with Hugo Boss, Bulls, whatever. You know, I think it will look decent. But for now, yeah, it's okay, but it's nothing special. I'll go for a 6 out of 10.
So we're gonna 5
5 out of 10
5,
altogether.
5.5 out of 10. Yeah, that sort of adds up to around there. Moving on then, another team with very little identity. Stake, Kick, Sauber, Alfa Romeo, Audi, whatever you want to try and call them, it's probably the wrong name. But they've gone completely differently, as you would hope so, considering that sort of title sponsors Alfa Romeo have left the sport. They've gone for a black and sort of neon green type thing, which we haven't really seen before, if memory serves me correct. Now, my immediate impressions is if you played the F1 video game, this just looks like a car that you would make on the My Team mode. It looks sort of very simple. I kind of like the colour scheme. The colour scheme's pretty cool, quite futuristic, so if they're going for like a future thing, I don't know. But if you sort of made like an Xbox My Team on F1, that's what it would look like, really. And to be fair, less sponsors, so plus points for that, or if not, they are placed sort of quite subtly on some green line on sort of the underside of the side pod. But I'm struggling to find more things to say about this car. It's black, it's green, there's green lines on it. It's nice, so and the stake works quite well, so I'm going to just get my rating out the blocks and give it a 6.5 out of 10. Go on, Amy.
I love it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm just a big fan of the colours. I think, like you said, it's unique. We've not had it before. I love that colour green, and I think it should. I hope the black's not too overpowering on track, and that actually you can see the green. And obviously in races like Las Vegas now and Singapore, I think that'll look really pretty on track. So yeah, I want to say 9 out of 10.
9
Wow.
out of
It's
10.
It's definitely one of my favourites. Yeah.
I think I sort of agree. I do really like it. I think it's one of the better looking cars. But if it was any other year, it would be for me 8 or 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
But because you just know it's not like their design, that it's because they want to save paint. I don't know. I do really like it, and it feels harsh to give it like anything less than 8 because it looks so good. But I don't know. I'm a bit conflicted on it, so I'm gonna go for a 7 out of 10.
I feel like I'm missing something here because you're both sort of like drooling over this car, and I'm saying 6.5. It's all right, innit?
Well, it's the thing is like it's been done before, isn't it?
It's vaguely
like reminiscent to
Minecrafty
that,
though. That's the
like-
thing with all
Yeah,
the
true.
squares. It's quite brutal, but so what would that average out then? 6.5,
7 and a 9, probably about 7
Let's
and a
call,
half.
let's call it 7.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Moving on to, I think this is my favourite car on the grid this year, the McLaren. The first one to sort of unveil the livery, but without revealing the actual car, which is, I appreciate that, to be fair. Get it out of the way nice and early. It is sexy. I think it works really well. Doesn't look too much like a battery considering the colour scheme going on with the sort of papaya and the black. The sponsors work really well as well. I think it's just very neat, very tidy. And they've sacked the blue off as well, which I think was just a necessity that they were trying to keep in there to keep some people happy. But it looks so much better without this sort of odd blue streak. I'm honestly tempted to give this a 9 out of 10, I think.
Well, I'm going to say the opposites here. I love the blue. I love the car, and I think it looks really nice, and I'm hoping it does better things than just look nice. But I like the blue. Blue's my favourite colour, so seeing have a little bit of blue on my favourite car, it was nice to see. But another thing I loved, and it's not a new thing, but the chrome on the wheels. I love that advertising.
Yeah, that
it's so
on the
smart, and
hubcaps, yeah.
I think it's lovely. But I'm gonna go 7.5 out of 10 because I love the orange, I love the papaya. I love the orange and the black together. I don't like it being too orange, and I think it has got a good balance. But I miss the blue, so I'm gonna go 7.5.
Okay, what you said about the chrome thing, I do really like the chrome wheel rims, But on this car, when it is black and just black and papaya, I think it's jarring. I think I think it's horrible. It just doesn't fit. But I do think the actual car itself does look nice. But again, it's the sort of thing like in any other year, it would be unique.
Yeah.
But because of how many cars are stripped back on paint, I'm just not. It's not really working that well for me. It's a bit like, did they have like some sort of like nighttime livery for like 2 or 3 races last year?
Yeah.
It's like that.
And it was more dark.
Yeah.
Like, hints of orange.
I like it. It's just, I don't know. It's sort of similar to the steak Sauber thing. It's just the other colour, like it's orange instead of green. So I'll just go for a 7.
Definitely shades of 2017, I'd say, with the black, the sort of harsh black and orange colour scheme. So what? 7? Was it 7.5? You gave it? 7. Yeah, we'll call it an 8. Why not? Let's call it an 8 out of 10. Aston Martin not really giving us too much here. It's the exact same, pretty much, as last year. There's no sort of real big hints to suggest that they've truly changed anything. Seb, Amy, did you pick up on any differences?
Absolutely not.
Well, there's no Aramco are now the title sponsors. It used to be Cognizant, so where it says Aramco.
I've got to say, it works very nicely on that rear wing. In fairness,
it looks nicer, I think, than last year. I think Aston Martin cars in general just look really nice.
They do look really nice.
I love that colour. That is definitely my favourite colour in the sport. I think it always looks pretty, but
Bit
it's
of
just
British racing cream, yeah.
I like the way that obviously a lot of cars are stripped back on carbon, or stripped the paint off and just expose the carbon more so on the side of the car. This, because it's like top down where they've stripped it off, it's not as noticeable. So it looks more green than it probably actually is. So I think it'll stand out.
They've done it in the right places, on the barge boards, on the front wing, and on the rear wing as well. They've done it where like it's not too obvious that they are clearly, you know, trying to sacrifice paint for performance here. But in terms of the general rating, I mean, you just look at that there, I'd say that's a solid 8 out of 10, really.
Yeah.
I'd go 8 out of 10 as well.
Yeah, maybe loses points for lack of creativity, but if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Exactly.
So yeah, 8 out of 10 for the Aston Martin. Controversial, this one, the next one now, Alpine. I'm not too displeased, really. I mean, the previous car was also, I mean, it was very in your face. And this one definitely more the sort of, it's maybe had a year at uni and it's sort of, you know, got into its shell a little bit, or, you know, rather than the other way around where it's got into uni and then come out of its shell like the previous Alpine sort of was. But that was a weird analogy. Anyway, definitely the car to see the most paint sacrificed for carbon fibre for performance reasons. Seb, I remember when I sort of spoke to you on the day it came out, or maybe the day after it came out, you were appalled by this.
Yeah, I'm not appalled, but it's just sort of like, again, it's like every other basically car I've said. If it was any other year, I'd be like, this is sick.
Seen a recurring theme here,
but because every other car, it just blends in, and like for Alpine, you know, they've been so, like their pink version of it is like the worst thing I've ever seen. How can they claim it's a different livery?
Yeah.
No, last year's fine. I like that, but how can they claim that this year they've got 2 different liveries? They're literally exactly the same.
Yeah.
I like it, but I just don't like the context of it, if you know what I mean. So I'll give it like a 6 out of 10.
I mean, it's very boring, isn't it, Amy? What do you think of it?
I hate it. I never really liked the pink. I'm not a fan of it being on a car on a track, I don't know. I like, the one thing I'll give it a compliment is the blue front wheel and the pink back wheel.
No, that looks
nice.
so
That
silly in my opinion.
I like it.
I think this is the most disagreeing we've ever done on a Chef One podcast before, but yeah.
But no, I hate it. And I think the fact that we were trying to trick before the launch about the pink camouflage, and it had nothing like, I'm not the best pleased with it, and I'd say it's the worst for me. So I'd give it a...
What?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably agree with you and say it's the worst. It's not a terrible looking car, it's very boring. Again, plus points for lack of sponsors, I suppose. So I'd maybe give it a 4.5, because 5 seems a little too high. Seb, what do you think?
I said a 6.
Okay, Seb said a 6. So... what does that come out to?
About 5.
Well, let's just say 5.
5.
Yeah, 5 out of 10. Which, to be fair, it is really, isn't it? Haas, is there a lot to say?
I don't know.
It's so
I've
boring.
literally nothing
It
to
is
say about
so
this.
boring. However, I like the logo of Haas.
Does look good, doesn't it?
It looks
does
nice.
look good.
That's a mental sentence. That's just. I like how they've got the logo of the team on there. They've done
Doesn't it look
a
nice?
great
It does look
job.
nice. The way it like
Sweeps
blends.
up,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like it. But
No, I know what you're saying. To be fair, I mean, it's very simple. They clearly didn't take long to think
no
of
one cares
this.
about
They
Haas,
just
do
needed
really?
speed.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, it's just.
Shots of fire.
now that Gunter's gone, who's bothered really?
It's 10th place in the constructors. We all know it.
Yeah.
This is sort of the one thing where a new title sponsor does work quite well, actually. MoneyGram with the white and the red sequence going on. Not as much red on the car in total as previous years, apart from on the rear wing there, where it sort of sticks out a lot. But I'll just give it a 5 because it's a boring livery. Should anyone else sort of disagree?
I'm not going to give it lower than the Alpine because I feel harsh doing that. So I'll give it a 6.
6.
5.
It's 5.5.
There
Yeah,
we go.
brilliant. Done and dusted with Haas. Ferrari. Okay, maybe I was wrong about the McLaren. I have fallen in love with that car. It is beautiful.
It is something else.
They've taken some of the black away, which I think is the right move. The red is so bold and pretty and beautiful and Scuderia, which is, yeah, I'm a big fan of this Ferrari. Amy, I think you might, sharing the
It's
same sort of passion.
Very
Yeah.
sexy, and like the use of the yellow and the white being more integrated in it. It's just and obviously the suits are more.
Yeah, the
yellow
stripes, the
and
yellow and white stripes are really, really cool.
Yeah.
One thing I might sort of maybe touch on though, there are a lot of sponsors on this one as well, but placed better in terms of design strategy, I
They're
would
all
say.
white as well, so it sort
Yeah.
of just blends in.
and shells
So-
yellow as well. So they all work, don't they? But no, that like just it looks scary. Obviously, it's the same as last year, but just the Ferrari on the back wing, I just love
It
the
looks
writing
so
of
good,
it,
doesn't
and
it?
it's
Yeah.
so good, and it just looks vintage and perfect. It's perfect. 10 out of 10.
10. Wow. I think vintage is definitely a good way of putting it. Seb, are you sort of as sort of strong?
I love it. I love it.
Good,
yeah.
good.
I still sort of prefer the Mercedes just because I just think it looks nicer. But for a Ferrari, this is a 10.
Wow.
But I just prefer the design of Mercedes. So I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Completely forgot to give my own ranking on the Ferrari. You know what? I'll give it a 10 out of 10 as well. Why not? Completely changed my opinion on the McLaren being the nicest. That Ferrari is, I'd say, near enough to perfection to give it a 10.
Okay, so the final car we've got is the Williams. I mean, I think it looks pretty similar.
Yeah,
Amy,
no,
do you think
I
so?
think it's very similar. I think a lot more black to it this year. Obviously, they've took that away for maybe speed, maybe some performance reasons. But last year, I loved the blue because it's my favourite colour, like
Yeah.
that shade as well. So, and there's not as much orange. And is that something to do with? It was an old what they called it?
Golf.
Yeah.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
they still sponsors?
Yeah. They've still got that
Oh.
logo on the side there.
Oh well, there's less
we go.
orange.
There we go.
But you know what? I love the Duracell.
Yeah, that's always
battery.
pretty cool.
It's-
That is
it's
cool.
Brilliant. So, it's a bit boring, but I like the colour of it, so I'm gonna go 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think the colour works well with like the stripping of the paint for
Mhm.
carbon because it sort of blends in really
Yeah.
nicely because it's that nice dark blue. Does it look like? Am I ever going to remember this car? No, so I'm just going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Almost
Rudy,
looks
what's your
like-
ranking?
Oh, go on. No, go on.
Almost looks like the British flag at the back as well.
I suppose it does, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like the ends of it. So obviously Williams is like British.
I think there was actually quite a cool little. There's like the old Frank Williams logos in it as
Right.
well, which is quite a
Yeah.
nice touch, but still 6 out of 10. Rudy,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's a very forgettable looking car. Not a bad looking car by any means, but I'm usually a huge fan of the Duracell air intake looking like a battery. But for some reason, but I think because it cuts off so soon, it just looks a little bit naff this year. And I'm not, it's a bit inexplicable as to why, but if I had to sort of put my finger on it, that'd be why. Some sort of bold white lines dotted here and there, making it a little bit different from last year's car, but as you say, it's nothing striking, nothing spectacular, very forgettable. This just has 7th place in the Constructors' Championship written all over it, unfortunately. So, while I've been very vocal of Williams and their progression this season, I'm not too fond on that livery, I'm afraid. I'll give it a 5.5 out of 10.
averages out to about 6 then.
Yeah.
There we go.
That adds up about
And
right.
we'll put a little graphic on screen showing our little table of sponsors. Oh no,
Ferrari
literally,
would've won that.
I think Ferrari and Mercedes. Well, you would be able to see. So
Yeah, I mean, in conclusion, that Ferrari is gorgeous, and there's too many sponsors on some of the cars.
there we
basically.
go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Probably the most exciting video I'll ever watch.
Yeah, please do stick around. This is, or watch our previous stuff, and you'll know that it's not always like this. But we thought why not react to the liveries? It might get us some views. So yeah, hope you appreciate the honesty as well. And thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you so much for the support over the recent weeks as well, especially since we've sort of restarted the podcast after our little Christmas break.
A lot of stuff to talk about soon as well. Yeah. Obviously, predictions, season's about to start. Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
Testing
don't
next
go anywhere
week.
because we've got loads
next
of.
Week?
Yeah, we're next Wednesday to Friday.
Oh my god, that's made my week. I didn't even
There you
know
go.
that.
Fantastic stuff. So yeah, we've got loads to talk about in the coming weeks, and you don't want to miss any of it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Seb and Amy, for joining a very sort of a patient. That's what I am now. Thank you for joining me sort of in my recovery, talking about the paint jobs, and yeah, I hope to see you back on the channel soon. Not you two, I mean the viewers, but yeah.
What?
No, I'm waffling. Anyway, let's just wrap it up. Thanks very much. See you later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.